What if I told you that the desire to make a woman obey you is the very thing that prevents you from being a man any woman would admire? This question hangs in the air like a paradox, a deliberate challenge to a deeply ingrained, yet flawed perception of power. We are conditioned to see strength in command, authority in compliance. But this is a grand illusion, a fragile fortress built on a foundation of sand. The very impulse to control, to demand submission, broadcasts a signal of profound insecurity, a silent admission that your own intrinsic value is not enough to inspire voluntary allegiance. It is a hunger that can never be satisfied, for the more you seek to dominate another's will, the more you reveal the unsettling truth of your own emptiness and inner chaos. The quest for control is a self-defeating prophecy, a serpent that consumes its own tail. When you attempt to impose your will, you are not demonstrating power. You are triggering a primal psychological defense mechanism in the other person known as reactance. This is the invisible wall that rises the moment someone feels their autonomy is threatened. The human spirit, by its very nature, yearns for freedom of choice. To try and cage it is to invite rebellion, not devotion. The person you seek to command may offer a hollow performance of compliance out of fear or convenience, but inwardly, respect withers, admiration curdles into contempt, and a quiet, unyielding resistance takes root. The control you think you have gained is merely a mirage in a desert of resentment. So we stand at a crossroads. One path leads to the lonely throne of the tyrant, a seat of power that is constantly under threat and ultimately meaningless. The other path, the one less traveled, leads to a different kind of authority, one that is not taken but given. This journey is not about learning the cheap tricks of manipulation or the brute force of coercion. It is about disarming the trap. It's about dismantling the very idea that another's obedience is the prize. The real prize is far greater. It's about forging yourself into a man whose presence is a force of nature, whose leadership is a magnetic pull, and whose influence is a silent, undeniable truth that needs no command to be acknowledged. The question itself, how do I make her obey, is the original sin. It's a query poisoned from its inception, emerging from a landscape of perceived deficiency. It presupposes that you are somehow lacking, and that her compliance is the missing ingredient required to validate your existence or secure your peace. This framework is not one of power, but of profound neediness. It is the starting point of every weak man who believes strength is an external resource to be extracted from others, rather than an internal wellspring to be cultivated. He looks at the world and sees not a kingdom to build, but a territory to conquer and hold through force, forever anxious about the inevitable insurrection that his own methods will eventually provoke. His focus is on the other, for he has not yet learned to focus on himself. Let us dissect the man who harbors this question. He is not the composed sovereign, the centered architect of his own reality. Instead, he is a man haunted by the specter of his own insufficiency. His desire for control is a direct measure of his inner turmoil. He fears that without explicit commands and enforced rules, he will be abandoned, overlooked, or deemed unworthy. This is the psychology of a man who has outsourced his sense of self-worth to the whims and validation of another. His every action becomes a plea for reassurance disguised as a command. He builds a prison for two, mistaking its bars for the pillars of a temple, and fails to realize he is as much a captive of his own insecurity as she is of his demands. Now consider her perspective, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as a sovereign entity. When she senses the subtle or overt pressure of a will attempting to subordinate her own, her spirit does not bow, it braces. This is not a conscious act of defiance. It is a primal, instinctual response to a perceived threat against her very essence. It is the psychological immune system known as reactance kicking in. Every attempt to dictate her feelings, choices, or movements is a micro-invasion that triggers an unconscious retreat. The magnetic polarity of attraction is reversed. The more you push for control, the more you energize her impulse to pull away, to seek open air where her autonomy can breathe, leaving you grasping at smoke. Herein lies the first great revelation, the pivot upon which this entire understanding turns. The true art of influence has nothing to do with bending another person to your will. It is about becoming a gravitational center. Power that is demanded is an illusion. Power that is voluntarily given is the only kind that is real and enduring. The goal is not to be a puppeteer, pulling strings in a desperate attempt to orchestrate a desired outcome. The goal is to become the architect of such a compelling world, such a fortress of character, that another person would willingly choose to align her path with yours. Her allegiance becomes a consequence of your being, not a product of your efforts to control her. Therefore, we must discard the old, flawed question and replace it with one that holds the key to genuine authority. The question is not, how do I make her obey, but rather, how do I become a man whom a woman of substance and self-respect would choose to follow? This shift is monumental. It moves the locus of control from an external target back to its rightful place within you. It marks the beginning of a profound internal journey, a quest not for domination over another, but for mastery over oneself. It is the foundational stone for building an empire of the self, the only empire from which you can truly lead. The first pillar upon which all genuine influence is built is the principle of congruence. This is not a complex strategy, but a simple yet profoundly difficult state of being, the perfect and unwavering alignment between your thoughts, your words, and your actions. It is the elimination of the void that so often exists between the man you claim to be and the man you are in practice. Congruence is the hallmark of an integrated soul, a man who is not a collection of fragmented, contradictory impulses, but a whole, unified force. It is the quiet, internal consistency that becomes the source of an external power that doesn't need to be announced, for it is felt by everyone who enters your orbit. It is the bedrock of all human trust. Imagine this congruence not as a moral lecture, but as a law of physics. It is the ultimate measure of a man's internal integrity. When your actions consistently ratify your stated beliefs, you generate a powerful resonant frequency. People subconsciously recognize this harmony. They perceive you as solid, reliable, a fixed point in a world of chaos. Conversely, a man who is incongruent, who speaks of honor but acts with convenience, who promises loyalty but delivers betrayal, creates a dissonant, jarring frequency. He is perceived on a primal level as unstable and untrustworthy. This is why a man of few words but consistent deeds commands more respect than a poet whose life is a lie. The authority of example, therefore, is not a tactic. It is the natural consequence of a congruent life. Your actions are the only true scripture of your philosophy. Words can paint beautiful pictures of imagined futures, but actions lay the heavy, foundational stones of reality. A man can speak of building empires, but it is the man who is seen daily, quietly and consistently, laying bricks who will be trusted to build a kingdom. His authority emanates not from his proclamations, but from the calloused evidence of his labor. He does not need to tell you who he is. He simply shows you day after day in every decision he makes and every challenge he faces. His life itself becomes the demonstration. This philosophy of action over rhetoric is the essence of true masculine power. It eschews the need for performance and validation because the work itself is the reward. The congruent man understands that respect is a byproduct, not a goal. He focuses on the process, on living his code, and allows respect to follow as a natural shadow. He is the stoic warrior, the quiet king, the master craftsman. His power is not in the noise he makes, but in the structures he builds, both in the world and within himself. He embodies his principles so completely that his very presence becomes a statement, a silent testament to the values he holds dear, making any verbal declaration of his worth entirely redundant. To achieve this state, one must first forge a personal code of conduct. This is your internal constitution, the set of non-negotiable principles by which you navigate the world. It is a document written not on paper, but on the soul, through introspection and conscious choice. What do you value above all else? Honesty, discipline, courage, compassion. Defining these values is the first step toward living them. This code is not a rigid cage that stifles you, but a compass that provides unwavering direction in the fiercest of storms. It is the internal architecture that prevents you from collapsing under external pressure or internal temptation, ensuring your actions remain true to your core. The Roman Emperor, Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man in the world in his time, spent his mornings writing not edicts of power, but personal reminders of his duty to virtue. He sought to rule the vast Roman Empire by first achieving absolute dominion over his own mind, his own impulses, his own fears. His authority was not merely a function of his legions, it was a consequence of his profound personal integrity. He understood that a man who cannot govern his own inner kingdom can never be trusted to govern anything or anyone else. This is the ultimate lesson. True power flows from self-mastery. Your code is your private law, the unbreakable vow you make to yourself. The cost of breaking this vow, the price of incongruence, is catastrophically high. Every time your actions contradict your words, you chip away at the very foundation of your own self-respect. You create a schism within your own being, a civil war between the man you aspire to be and the man your weaknesses allow you to be. This internal conflict is not a private matter. It radiates outward as an aura of unreliability. People may not consciously pinpoint your contradictions, but they will feel them. They will sense the subtle hesitation, the lack of conviction, the faint but unmistakable scent of fraudulence. Trust, once fractured, is almost impossible to fully restore. This erosion of trust is insidious. It begins with small compromises, the promise you break to yourself to wake up early, the half-truth you tell to avoid a moment of uncomfortable conflict, the shortcut you take when you believe no one is watching. Each of these seemingly insignificant acts is a betrayal of your own code. They create a pattern of behavior that defines you more than any grand statement you might make. You are not what you think you are, nor what you say you are. You are what you repeatedly do. Incongruence is a slow poison that paralyzes your potential and renders you impotent in the face of real adversity. We can see this principle embodied in the powerful archetype of the king. The true, benevolent king does not rule by fear or decree alone. He rules by embodying the highest ideals of his kingdom. His law is trusted because he is the first to abide by it. His judgment is respected because it is known to be forged in wisdom and impartiality, not personal whim. His strength inspires not because he flaunts it, but because his people have seen him use it to protect them, to build and to maintain order. The king's authority is a mirror reflecting his own character. He is the kingdom, and the kingdom is him. His congruence is his crown. The lesson from this archetype is that your life is your kingdom. Every habit, every relationship, every project is a province within it. Are you ruling it with integrity? Are you a just and consistent leader of your own impulses and ambitions? The man who seeks to influence a woman to follow him must first be a king worthy of following. He must demonstrate, through his unwavering administration of his own life, that he is capable of providing stability, direction, and order. His personal domain must be a place of prosperity and strength before he can ever hope to have a queen willingly join him in it. This commitment to congruence is not reserved for monumental decisions. It is forged in the crucible of the mundane. It is in the integrity of keeping the small promises you make to others, and more importantly, to yourself. It is in the discipline of your daily routines, the focus you bring to your work, the way you manage your finances, the respect you show to those from whom you have nothing to gain. These are not trivial details. They are the very fabric of your character. They are the thousands of small, consistent votes you cast for the kind of man you are choosing to become, building a fortress of integrity one brick at a time. Think of your character as a muscle. Every time you choose the path of integrity over the path of convenience, you are completing a repetition, making that muscle stronger. Every time you align your action with your stated value, you build resilience. Over time, this daily practice becomes second nature. Your integrity becomes an unconscious armor, a reflexive strength that operates automatically. People are not drawn to your potential for greatness. They are drawn to the demonstrated history of your choices. They are drawn to the man you have built yourself to be through relentless daily practice in the small, unglamorous moments of life. This brings us to the precipice of a vital and perhaps uncomfortable self-examination. It is the internal conflict that every man must face if he wishes to transcend mediocrity. Look in the mirror and ask the question that separates the boy from the man. Do my actions today validate the words I will say tomorrow? This is not a question to be answered once, but a daily audit, a constant recalibration of your internal compass. It demands a radical form of honesty with oneself, an acknowledgement of where you have fallen short, and a renewed commitment to align your path with your purpose. The struggle is real. The allure of the easy path, the comfort of the white lie, the temptation of instant gratification. These are the siren calls that lead to a shipwreck of character. Resisting them is the great work of a man's life. It is the ongoing battle waged in the silent theater of your own mind. To win this battle, to consistently choose the harder right over the easier wrong, is to build an unshakable foundation of self-trust. And it is from this foundation of self-trust that all external influence is born. You believe in yourself so profoundly that others have no choice but to believe in you too. Once this foundation of congruence is established, something remarkable happens. A man who is whole, who is internally consistent and self-governed, becomes a self-contained world. He no longer needs to draw energy or validation from external sources. His peace, his purpose, and his power reside within him. This internal solidity naturally creates a certain distance, an aura of self-sufficiency that is profoundly magnetic. He has built the fortress of his character. Now we must explore the enigmatic and alluring nature of the fortress itself and the mystery of the man who resides within. This leads us to the second great pillar of influence. We now enter the realm of the second pillar, the mastery of mystery and calculated unpredictability. This is not a call for deception or the juvenile games of a seducer. True, powerful mystery is not something you fabricate. It is the natural consequence of a life lived with depth, purpose, and a rich inner world that does not revolve around the validation of any single person. It is the unspoken sense that there are vast unexplored continents within you, that what is seen on the surface is merely the coastline of a much larger, more complex territory. This is the allure of the unknown, a fundamental driver of human curiosity and attraction. The magician archetype embodies this principle perfectly. His power lies not in what he openly displays, but in his understanding of the unseen, the subtle, the symbolic. He operates on a different plane. He is a master of knowledge, but he does not share it all at once. His wisdom is revealed in measured doses, at the right time, creating a sense of profound depth. To be with him is to feel that you are in the presence of someone who perceives a deeper layer of reality. This enigmatic quality does not stem from a desire to manipulate, but from a genuine connection to a world of his own, a world of ideas, passions, and purpose. The psychology at play here is simple. Human beings are wired to devalue what is abundant and to covet what is scarce. This principle applies not just to material goods, but to the most valuable resources of all: your time, your focus, and your emotional presence. A man who is perpetually available, whose schedule is always open, who instantly replies to every message, unconsciously signals that his time is not valuable and that he has no other pressing priorities in his life. He presents himself as an unlimited resource, and like any unlimited resource, he is taken for granted. His presence, though constant, loses its impact. This is not a strategy of playing hard to get, which is an insecure tactic. This is about being hard to get, because you are genuinely engaged in the process of building your own life. Your focus is on your work, your studies, your craft, your physical and mental cultivation. You have a mission that demands your energy. Your unavailability is not a performance. It is a real consequence of your dedication to your own path. You are scarce because you are investing your time and energy into becoming a man of higher value. This genuine scarcity makes the moments of attention you do give feel like a privilege, not an expectation. In this context, silence becomes one of your most potent tools. In a world saturated with noise, where everyone is desperate to be heard, a man who is comfortable with silence stands out. He projects an aura of unshakable confidence. He doesn't feel the nervous compulsion to fill every conversational gap with chatter. This strategic silence serves multiple purposes. It conveys thoughtfulness, demonstrating that you are processing information rather than just reacting. It creates a vacuum that the other person feels compelled to fill, often revealing more about themselves, and most powerfully, it creates tension and mystery, leaving them to wonder what you are thinking. Think of a conversation as a dance. The man who talks incessantly is a clumsy partner, stepping on toes and dictating every move. The man who uses silence masterfully leads with subtle, confident gestures. He creates space. He allows the rhythm to breathe. His silence is not an absence of communication. It is a different, more powerful form of it. It says, "I am so confident in my own presence that I don't need to dominate this interaction with my voice." This self-possession is magnetic. It suggests a mind that is deep, a spirit that is calm, and a man who is in complete control of his own frame. This quiet confidence is fueled by a rich and vibrant inner world, one that is cultivated for its own sake, not for an audience. This is your sanctuary. It is composed of your passions, your intellectual curiosities, your personal quests, your solitary adventures. It is the library of books you've read, the skills you've honed, the music that moves your soul, the thoughts you've wrestled with in the dead of night. This inner world ensures that your happiness and sense of self are not contingent upon a relationship. You are a complete universe unto yourself, and a relationship is the beautiful collision and merging of two whole universes, not two halves seeking completion. When a woman senses that you have this deep inner reservoir, she understands that you are not looking to her to be your source of entertainment, your therapist, or your sole purpose for living. This is profoundly liberating and attractive for her. It means she is free to be your partner, not your project. It signals that you are with her by choice, not by need. A man who is needy suffocates. A man who is self-contained provides the space for attraction to grow. He has his own sources of nourishment, making his presence a generous offering rather than a desperate plea. Here we arrive at the central transformative idea of this entire block. The mystery that makes a man compelling is not a manufactured persona, but the direct result of having a purpose that is larger than any single person or relationship. This is your telos, your ultimate aim, your North Star. It is the grand project of your life, the mission that gets you out of bed in the morning with a fire in your spirit. It is the answer to the question, why are you here? This purpose provides direction, meaning, and a relentless forward momentum to your life. A man with a mission is the protagonist of his own story. He is on a quest. A relationship, for him, is not the destination. It is the cherished companionship of a fellow traveler who chooses to walk the same path for a time. He is not looking for a woman to be his world. He is looking for a woman to share his world with as he moves toward his grander objective. This frame is irresistibly attractive. It elevates the interaction from a simple courtship to an invitation to join an epic journey. Her role is not to complete him, but to be the worthy first mate on his voyage. This sense of purpose reframes everything. His time is valuable because it is dedicated to his mission. His attention is focused because he is driven by his goals. His emotional state is stable because it is anchored to a purpose beyond the ups and downs of a romantic entanglement. He is less available, not as a tactic, but because he is genuinely occupied with meaningful pursuits. His mystery is simply the unfolding of his life's grand narrative, a story she has been invited to witness and perhaps become a part of. He is not playing games. He is playing for the highest stakes imaginable, the fulfillment of his own potential. So, the power of mystery is unlocked not by learning what to hide, but by building a life so full and meaningful that you naturally have hidden depths. It's about becoming a man of substance, a man with a private world of thought and a public mission of action. You are the book with many chapters, not the pamphlet that can be read in a single sitting. You invite exploration, rather than providing a simple summary. This is not about being cold or distant, but about being so engrossed in your own journey that your presence becomes a rare and valuable gift. Let's synthesize these first two pillars. Congruence builds the unshakable foundation of trust and respect. It establishes you as a man of integrity, a reliable and solid force. Mystery, born from purpose, builds the intricate and fascinating cathedral upon that foundation. It creates the allure, the fascination, the desire to explore the depths of your character. The first makes a woman respect you and feel safe with you. The second makes her intrigued by you, drawn to the puzzle of who you are and the adventure of where you are going. Together, these two principles create a potent and authentic form of magnetism. You are not a tyrant demanding obedience, nor a performer seeking applause. You are the sovereign of your own inner world, a man whose actions are aligned with his values and whose life is dedicated to a purpose. You are both a safe harbor and a grand adventure. This combination is the fertile ground from which genuine, voluntary influence grows. It prepares the stage for the next crucial element, the dynamic of challenge, where respect and attraction are intensified through the establishment of high standards. We now arrive at the heart of the matter, the narrative's climax, where the architecture of attraction is completed. It rests upon a simple, immutable law of human nature. We do not assign value to that which we do not invest in. A truth obtained without effort is quickly forgotten. A prize won without a struggle is easily discarded. The very act of striving, of investing our time, our emotions, and our focus into a goal is what imbues that goal with profound meaning. This is the psychological principle of investment. It is the reason a mountain climber cherishes the summit, not because of the view alone, but because of the arduous, soul-testing journey required to get there. He values the peak because he has left a piece of himself on the mountain's face. Here we must draw a sharp, definitive line between being a challenge and merely being difficult. To be difficult is the domain of the child and the insecure. It is creating arbitrary obstacles, playing manipulative games, and cloaking emotional instability in a shroud of unpredictability. It is a locked door without a key, a frustrating and pointless barrier. To be a challenge, however, is the domain of the king. It is not about creating obstacles for others, but about embodying a standard so high that it demands growth from anyone who wishes to stand beside you. A mountain is not difficult for the sake of it. Its challenge is an honest reflection of its sheer height and grandeur. Being an inspiring challenge, therefore, has nothing to do with making her jump through hoops. It is about the powerful, silent declaration of your own standards. Your unwavering commitment to your purpose becomes a challenge to her own ambition. Your intellectual discipline becomes a challenge to her curiosity. Your emotional solidity becomes a challenge to her own self-awareness. You do not demand these things from her with words. Instead, you inspire them by your very being. The unspoken question you pose is not, "Are you good enough for me?" but rather, "Are you good enough for the woman you have the potential to become?" You set the bar by where you stand. This dynamic creates the most potent form of relational alchemy, a partnership of mutual assent. A woman of substance, of character and depth is not deterred by a man of high standards. She is galvanized by him. She sees in his example a reflection of her own potential, an invitation to rise to a higher version of herself. Stagnation is the silent killer of passion, but a relationship where both partners act as catalysts for each other's growth becomes an upward spiral of shared evolution. You are not seeking a subordinate to follow your orders. You are seeking an equal, a fellow eagle capable of soaring at the same altitude, pushing you to fly higher as you push her. And this is the apex of our journey, the single most critical revelation. You do not lower your standards to be accepted. You maintain them to inspire the right person to rise. Read those words again. Let them settle. The greatest temptation a man will face is the urge to soften his edges, dilute his principles, and descend from his own mountain in order to meet someone in the comfortable valley of mediocrity. The moment you do this, you betray everything you have built. You sacrifice your congruence, shatter your mystery, and communicate that your own values are negotiable. You cease to be a challenge and become a compromise, and nobody truly desires a compromise. This is the ultimate crucible of your character. It is the moment of truth, where you prove your allegiance is to your own internal compass, not to the fear of loneliness. By maintaining your frame, by unapologetically embodying your standards, you are performing an act of radical self-respect. You are not being arrogant, you are being honest. You are declaring that your kingdom has laws, that your temple has guardians at the gate. This act of filtration is not meant to exclude, but to qualify. It ensures that the person who enters your life does so not because you made it easy for them, but because they were strong and worthy enough to make the climb. In this act, the very concept of obedience is rendered utterly obsolete. You are not seeking a follower who will obey commands. You are creating the conditions for a partner who will respect the mission. By refusing to lower your standards, you have done something far more powerful than illicit obedience. You have inspired ascension. The woman who chooses to meet this challenge is not submitting to you. She is submitting to her own higher potential, which you had the integrity to awaken. Her respect for you is forged in the fire of her own growth, a respect given not to a master, but to the noble adversary who showed her just how high she could climb. This brings us to the final and most profound pillar of influence, emotional leadership. This is the ultimate expression of self-mastery. It is the ability to become the unwavering protector of the emotional state, both your own and that of those in your presence. Imagine a fortress, standing resolute against a raging storm. The winds howl, the rain lashes down, but within its walls, there is calm, order, and safety. The emotional leader is this fortress. He is the man who can face external chaos, a crisis at work, a personal conflict, a moment of panic, and maintain his internal peace. He is not emotionless, rather he is the master of his emotions, not their slave. His solidity becomes a silent anchor for everyone around him. This capacity for unshakable calm is perhaps the most attractive and respected human quality. In a world rife with anxiety and reactivity, the man who possesses a calm spirit holds a form of superpower. His stability is a non-verbal communication of strength, competence, and control. People, and especially women, are instinctively drawn to a presence that feels safe. When a man demonstrates that he cannot be easily thrown off his center, that his emotional state is not contingent on external events, he creates a bubble of security around him. He becomes the safe harbor in a turbulent world. His presence does not add to the drama, it quietly dissolves it, providing a space where clarity and trust can flourish. This emotional leadership is the ultimate proof of a man's inner work. It is evidence that he has journeyed into his own psychological landscape and established order. He has faced his own fears, integrated his own shadows, and learned to command the legions of his own mind. His influence at this stage transcends action or word. It becomes a function of his very being. He leads by embodying a state of centered strength. He doesn't need to give speeches about stability. His calm demeanor in the face of pressure is the most powerful speech of all. He is the true north on the emotional compass, an immovable point of reference that allows others to find their own balance. And so we see the journey's true destination. We began by dismantling a flawed desire for obedience, and we end by revealing its sacred replacement. The entire path, the forging of congruence, the cultivation of mystery, the embodiment of a noble challenge, was never about bending another person to your will. It was about meticulously constructing a character worthy of the ultimate prize, absolute trust. Obedience is the brittle currency of tyrants and insecure men, extracted through fear and manipulation. But trust is the voluntary offering given to a king, a tribute earned through the demonstrated consistency of his character, the depth of his purpose, and the unwavering strength of his soul. The objective, then, was never to have someone who obeys you. That is for the weak. The objective is to build yourself into a man so solid, so purposeful, so trustworthy that a woman of substance would grant you her confidence. Because obedience can be demanded, it can be coerced, it can be performed under duress, but trust must be earned. It is the highest, purest, and most enduring form of influence that can exist between two human beings. And so, the final question is not what you must do to make her follow you. The real question is far more important. Where are you going that would be worth following?